This is wild as Masai Ujiri and the Toronto Raptors are forced into a shocking decision as Jameson Battle's play over the course of this preseason, over the course of Summer League, is forcing the team to give him that final roster spot. Yes, Bruno Fernando as well as Jahmi'us Ramsey were the favorites for that final roster spot, especially after Christian Koloko ended up signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. It was essentially, hey, if Koloko doesn't sign, then we'll give it to Bruno Fernando, or Jahmi'us Ramsey was kind of that late addition after a strong sort of closing stretch to the Toronto Raptors season last year. It was between those players, and then Jameson Battle will be a guy that was signed on an Exhibit 10 contract, and because of his strong performance in Summer League, he'd get a run with the 905 and could be a piece of the Toronto Raptors in the future. But no, Jameson Battle is forcing the hand of the franchise, and Darko Rajakovic just spoke out about it, and the rumors and rumblings are picking up that Battle is going to be that final roster spot. So we're going to break down all of that in this video and how these guys have been performing over the course of Summer League and what I think is going to end up actually happening for this team, because Masai Ujiri, this would be pretty crazy turn of events in regards to that final roster spot from what we've been following this entire summer. So we got a lot of stuff to dive into. But before we do, folks, again, if you are a part of the over 67% of our viewers that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on with this Toronto Raptors team, make sure you guys hit that sub button so you don't miss a single thing that's happening, as the regular season is just around the corner. We just had a crazy game with the Raptors beating the Celtics, so I'm feeling amped up, I'm feeling juiced, and I'm feeling really excited, especially about some of the guys on the deep bench, because I know in previous seasons, especially under Nick Nurse, right, end of the bench didn't really matter. Last season, it mattered a lot because those guys got a ton of run. But even if the Raptors are better this season, it's still very unknown. Some games they look horrible, some games they look great. But Darko Rajakovic has expressed the importance of getting these decisions right, coming out and saying that this year is about learning our roster, exploring. We talked about using all 15 players, and I will not be shying away from throwing those guys into the game as well. So essentially, Darko Rajakovic is coming out and he is willing, he is ready to give a ton of different players actual opportunities to go out there in the basketball court and have an impact. And, that means 1 through 15. And especially with a rebuilding roster team in a year one of a rebuild, getting these players right, getting these selections, the end of the roster decisions right, are crucial for your team. And basically, the favorite, the guy that was most expected to be given that final roster spot after Christian Koloko signed with the Lakers was Bruno Fernando, who is a guy that played for the Atlanta Hawks, is 26 years old, so playing a position of need, as the Raptors do need a more rebounding, big man oriented sort of 4 or 5 for this roster, just in terms of depth, in terms of having things going, and a guy that was very well loved by the Atlanta Hawks, by his former teams, and was able to provide some very valuable sort of minutes for the Atlanta Hawks to close off last season. And apparently they didn't want to deal him away, but were forced to or didn't want to let Bruno Fernando walk, but were forced to after making the DeJounte Murray trade in order for the money to work and stuff. So Bruno Fernando felt like a pretty solid selection, but hasn't really turned a ton of heads with preseason in terms of his performance, in terms of what he's been able to do out there on the court. For the Toronto Raptors in this preseason, again, not horrible, right? 5.5 points per game. Came out, he did take a 3, which is, made a 3, or took a 3, which is pretty interesting. He's been taking some interesting jump shots, but came out there, he's been getting 5 rebounds a night, 1 assist, 1.2 steals. Again, probably what we expected from Bruno Fernando. Nothing crazy disappointing, but nothing crazy over the top that's making you say, hey, guaranteed sign this guy, guaranteed bring this guy in as an impact player. But there's a couple names that feel like they've overshadowed Bruno Fernando. And honestly, this video probably would have been about, if it wasn't for the absolutely outstanding performances of a Jameson Battle, this, instead of Bruno Fernando, we'd probably be talking about Jahmi'us Ramsey as the guy that's going to get that final roster spot. Yes, it's not really a positional need, but still a young player at 6'3". I've seen him listed at 6'5" in different places. Definitely a very strong, kind of yoked basketball player out there on the court. But Jahmi'us Ramsey has looked pretty good out here during these preseason games as well, right? For the Toronto Raptors in this preseason, 13-14 minutes per game, averaging about 8 points per night. Again, playing solid defense as we saw at the end of last year, but outside of that, he's doing some decent things, right? Not crazy rebounds or those types of numbers like box score, but the eye tests he's put up some solid shows defensively. But the real interesting statistical category to look at is he's knocking down his 3-point shots. And again, it's a smaller sample size, but 45% from the three-point line on close to 3 attempts per game is very, very good efficiency. Again, we saw him miss a lot of shots over the course of the end of last season, but still, that is very good numbers for a guy that's going to come in and guard, be the point of attack defender, and just do a lot of things on the defensive end. If he can be an effective offensive player, it's a high upside player for, someone that's only 23 years old. So fits the timeline, fits stuff that's going on. So Jahmi'us Ramsey feels like he would have been overtaking despite the positional need of a Bruno Fernando. I felt like Jahmi'us Ramsey would be in a position to, maybe be favored for that final roster spot if it wasn't for this guy. As I kind of alluded to, Jameson Battle, he's forced in the Toronto Raptors' hands right now. And again, Jameson Battle is still only 23 years old, so still a very young guy. 6'7" in his own right, so taller than Jahmi'us Ramsey, can play a bit more of the forward position, but was regarded, was looked at as just a three-point shooter, just a guy that can knock down threes. But my God, can he knock down threes? Can he do it at an extremely, extremely high clip? I mean, and only less minutes per game, so 10 minutes per night, averaging about 7.25 points, was the first guy off the bench in the last Toronto Raptors game when they played against the Boston Celtics, kept his game going, but is shooting on 3 attempts per game, 58% from behind the three-point line. And again, still doing decent rebounds from the eye test. Again, it felt like the way he was talked about, the way he was scouted, and the way that, was expected, the narrative of a three-point shooter, he'd be pretty hopeless on the defensive end. He hasn't looked that bad out there defensively. He is hustling. He is bringing the energy. He is bringing the intensity out there on the basketball court. And frankly, just an absolutely earth-shattering three-point stroke. And Darko Rajakovic had some comments regarding this directly on Jameson Battle, saying that he just does a lot of stuff at a good level. First of all, his shooting is legit. He's a really good three-point shooter, dare I say, with 58% from the three-point line. Goodness gracious. And that opens up a lot of stuff. It opens the floor. Teammates are very confident to find him when he's in those situations. And from there, I see potential for him to continue to develop his game. So again, Jameson Battle is an absolutely elite marksman three-point shooter, which is a huge, huge positive there. And then Darko went on to say, I like left-handed players. Left-handed shooters, they can create shots, but they also get into their left hand and get it all the way to the rim. We have seen some interesting drives, some interesting pull-ups from Jameson Battle, again, in a limited sample size and stuff, but Battle has come out and just shot an electrifying three-point shooting percentage, and this is a team that is in need of those actual shooters. Guys that can come out. Masai Ujiri has built this team around slashing in RJ Barrett, in Scottie Barnes, and heck, Jakob Poeltl has been really good finishing around the basket, but isn't much of a three-point shooter. So having a guy that can shoot, again, he's not going to shoot 58% from the three-point line the entire season. That's completely unrealistic, but the fact that he is shooting at that level right now and was shooting at just an absolutely insane percentage over the course of Summer League, it's really hard to say, even with how good, Jahmi'us Ramsey has been, even with, the positional need and the interesting, like, Bruno Fernando being a completely competent, solid player for that final roster spot. Yes, he had a very ugly sort of last game against the Boston Celtics, but would not be frustrated if Bruno Fernando is the 15th guy on any roster out there in the NBA. But if you're playing at this level, I don't care about earning your stripes. I don't care about all this type of stuff. Jameson Battle came in as an unknown to this Toronto Raptors Summer League team, and he earned an Exhibit 10 contract. He was one of the first guys to get offered that contract, just off his level of play, off of what he was able to do. And he's doing it in a limited run, limited minutes, right? Not getting a ton of touches, not getting a ton of opportunities. And even in this Summer League, because again, Jameson Battle, starting off his Toronto Raptors career, if he gets that final roster spot, he's going to have to play with limited opportunities, limited minutes, limited stuff, be able to come in and be effective on those sort of opportunities. But he's proving his capabilities. He's proving the ability to do that. He doesn't look hopeless on the defensive end. And now in the NBA level, the preseason, against the Boston Celtics, the former NBA champions, he's coming out and he is looking confident. He is looking like a guy that can be very effective in his role. And it's a desperate need for this Raptors team to increase the level of shooting on this roster. And again, while I like Jahmi'us Ramsey, it feels like Jahmi'us Ramsey is the traditional Raptors pick. And while Bruno Fernando does make sense as a guy that, hey, this is usually what the roster kind of needs in terms of structure organizationally, Jameson Battle is 23 years old. He's proven to have an absolutely marksman elite stroke. I would not let this guy risk this guy going down to the G League and getting picked up by another roster. That's just how it is. Again, if he sells out, it's the 15th roster is what it is. But the highest upside out of all these guys feels like it's Jameson Battle. And frankly, it's going to force Masai Ujiri to shock everyone and give him that final roster spot. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys have been as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm signing out. Cheers.